Did you know that some words change their meaning depending on how you stress them? If you stress the first syllable, it has one meaning, but if you stress another syllable in the word, it has a different meaning. And the most difficult part about these words is that they're written the same way. They have the same letters. Well, in this video, I'm going to give you some examples of these words and I'm going to explain what they mean. I'm Chris from chrisamericos.com, where we help you level up and show the world the best version of yourself. And let's talk about some words that change meaning when we stress different parts of the word. But first, make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you get all of the videos about pronunciation, grammar, and speaking so that you can join our speaking practice lessons. So click that subscribe button and let's go. The first word is attribute. And an attribute is a quality or a characteristic. The word attribute, stressed on the first syllable, is a noun. It's a thing. We can say, people should be judged by their character, not their physical attributes. But wait, because this word can also be a verb. What? Yes, it's a verb if we change the stress to the second syllable. So instead of saying attribute, which is a noun, a thing, we can say attribute. And now it's a verb, an action. The verb to attribute means that we say that something is responsible for something else. So usually we say attribute something to something. For example, her success can be attributed to her hard work and perseverance. Our next example is the word address or address. Now, which one is correct? Well, it depends what we're talking about in the sentence, and it depends where you're from. Because in the United States, that's where I'm from, we say address, and that's a noun, but we say address, and that's a verb. But in British English, they say address for both parts, for nouns and for verbs. But what's the difference between a noun, address, and a verb, to address? Well, an address, a noun, which is a thing, is where somebody lives or where a building is located. It's about the location of something. So I can say, I wrote my address on the envelope. But the verb to address is about how we talk to a person. So usually it's to address someone. For example, if you don't know a person, it's polite to address them as sir or ma'am. So to address someone, this is the words that you use to call their name. Our next example is the word conduct, or the verb to conduct. Let's talk about the noun first. So when it's a noun, we say conduct, and this is similar to the word behavior. It's how you act. You might say, this club has a strict code of conduct. But the verb to conduct something has a different meaning. It usually means to carry something out, to perform something, to do something. So we might say, scientists conduct experiments. That's what scientists do. Now, sometimes the change in the meaning of the word isn't always about nouns and verbs. Like in our next example, the noun content and the adjective content. Using it as a noun, you might say, Chris creates new video content every day. Well, almost every day. But as an adjective, we pronounce it content. And we can say, Mike is content with his life at the moment. Because as an adjective, the word content means happy or satisfied. Okay, our next example is the word converse or to converse. When we use it as a noun, a converse or the converse of something is the opposite. So we can say, most people believe that the earth is round, but the converse might also be true. Write in the comments and let me know if you think the earth is round or the converse, it's flat. As a verb, this word has a completely different meaning. To converse means to communicate, to talk, to discuss. It's about speaking. So I can tell you that I enjoy conversing with people from different countries. And if you enjoy conversing with people from different countries, then click the link under this video to join our live speaking lessons every day. The next word that we need to talk about is default or default. Now, this word is tricky because the pronunciation default could be a noun, an adjective, or a verb. Some people also pronounce it default when they're talking about a noun or an adjective, but never as a verb. So using it as an adjective, we might say, our default meeting time is 10 a.m. Or someone might pronounce it default. Our default meeting time is 10 a.m. When we use it as a verb, it has a completely different meaning. To default means that you don't pay the money that you owe when you take credit. And this might be for a house or it might be for a business. Even countries can default. And some really bad stuff happens if you default. Like if you default on your mortgage, the bank can take your house. Oh, that's scary. Banks are scary. All right, moving on to the next one. The next word is desert or dessert. What's the difference here? Both of those are nouns, right? There's a different spelling. So let's make sure we're talking about the right word first, okay? We're talking about desert and to dessert. We're not talking about dessert with two S's. That's something that you eat at the end of your meal, right? Something sweet. I love dessert, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Instead, we're going to talk about desert, which is a noun, and we can say the Sahara Desert is the largest desert on Earth. But when we use this word as a verb, it has a totally different meaning. To desert means to leave someone without help. And we use this a lot when we're talking about armies and the military. A soldier who is in the military and runs away from the military, he deserted the military. He is a deserter. So we might say, when the soldiers went into battle, he deserted. Or we could say, I needed your help and you deserted me. Great, let's go to the next example. The next one is entrance or to entrance. And again, these words are written the same, but they have different pronunciations and wildly different meanings. An entrance is the place where you enter a building. You go in. I can tell you, when you come to my office, use the main entrance. But the verb to entrance means to put someone into a trance. Now, what is a trance? It's like when they're shocked and can't move because they're so interested in something, like, whoa. There's spirals going in the eyes and they're entranced, they're hypnotized. So we can say, she entranced the audience with her voice. She's a really good singer. Okay, the next word is exploit or to exploit. When we use this word as a noun, we usually use it in the plural. Exploits. And it's some kind of adventurous or brave or unusual thing that a person has done. For example, he told me about his exploits in Europe. He did something really interesting there. But the verb to exploit has a very different meaning, and it's usually very negative. To exploit someone or to exploit a group of people means to use them or to manipulate them. And usually it has bad consequences for them, and somebody else profits or benefits from this. But it's not always negative. For example, you can say, in a fight, you should exploit your opponent's weaknesses. It's just a good strategy. Okay, let's go to the next one. The next one is extract or to extract. When we use it as a noun, an extract is a small piece taken from something. So you might have an extract that is part of a substance, part of a chemical, or something that scientists work with. But you can also have an extract from something that has been written, like a book. So for example, we can say, the newspaper published an extract from his new book. And the verb to extract something means to take something out. So we can say, the dentist extracted the man's tooth. Ouch! That sounds painful. All right, the next word that we're going to talk about is invalid or invalid. When we say invalid, this is a noun, and it's about a person, usually. And when we say invalid, this is usually an adjective. The term invalid is another way to say that a person is handicapped or can't use part of their body. So we might say, after the car accident, he remained an invalid for the rest of his life. But when we pronounce it invalid, it's talking about something that doesn't work or it's not correct. For example, she couldn't enter the country because her documents were invalid. The adjective invalid is the opposite of the adjective valid. Okay, next let's talk about object and to object. An object is a thing. Like around me, you can see a lot of different objects. This YouTube plaque on the wall, that's an object. This microphone, that's an object. Even this hoodie and this pineapple thing up here, those are objects. They're all objects. So we might say happiness is not an object that you can purchase. But when we pronounce it differently and we say object, well, now it's a verb, it's an action. And it means to say that we are against something or to say no to something. So I might ask you, would you object to starting our meeting 5 minutes early? It means, would you be against it? Are you against something? So if we want to ask if somebody is against something, they don't want to do it, we can say, would you object to this? That's really useful, and it sounds very similar to our next example, which is project and to project. Probably you know what a project is. It's something that you're working on, you start and it's not complete, and it has some different parts or pieces that you need to do so that you can complete it and finish it. I might tell you, I'm busy at work because we've just started a new project. But the verb to project something is like to predict something. It means that we think something will happen in the future. So the government or the newspaper might say, unemployment is projected to rise by 2% next year. It means they think that it will go up by 2%. But let's hope not. All right, our next example is a really interesting one, and maybe you've never heard it before, but as a noun, we can pronounce it refuse, and as a verb, we pronounce it refuse. So the pronunciation changes a lot, not just the stress between the words, but the actual pronunciation of some of the sounds too. Now, the first pronunciation, a thing, is refuse. And refuse is another way to say garbage, trash, or rubbish. It's something that you throw away, something that you don't need. And I can tell you, there's no reason to keep refuse in your house. Don't do that. But the verb to refuse something means to say no to something or not give something to someone. And I might tell you, she made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. It means I could not say no to her offer. It was a really good offer. Great, we've talked about a lot of different examples and I've got one more for you, but before that, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss other useful videos that will help you learn English and learn correct pronunciation. All right? I know you've probably already clicked that subscribe button, but if you haven't, go ahead and do that right now. Our last example is the word subject or the verb to subject. A subject is a noun. It's a thing that we study. You study a lot of subjects at school. And I can tell you that my favorite subject at school was geography. And it's important for me to tell you that a lot of these words have more than one meaning. So I'm just telling you the first meaning that popped into my head. The word subject as a noun also has a second meaning. A subject could be someone who serves a king. Like you have the king and you have all of the king's subjects. Now, we don't have a lot of kings and king's subjects today, so we don't talk about that a lot, and that's why that wasn't the first meaning that I gave you. But hey, I wanted to give you an example that this word has more than one meaning, and now I've done that. So let's talk about what it means to subject someone to something. This is a verb, and it means to make a person deal with something, or to make a person experience something, or to make a person have to go through something. So I can tell you, my parents subjected me to watching hours and hours of television. It was torture. It was terrible. I don't like television. I don't even have a television. Because you don't need a television to watch YouTube, right? Thanks for watching. Make sure you press like, press subscribe, leave a comment if you have any other questions, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.